In our last episode, we arrived at the mall through an unexpected connection via Anacostia Crossing. We discovered our very first settlement, really, well after Rivet City, the underworld in the Museum of History. We took advantage of their facilities and then went off to explore the mall. While exploring, we found a hazmat disposal site, which eventually led to L'Enfant Plaza, which is going to be our way out of the mall once we finish exploring it. We found the Lincoln Memorial, now swarming with slavers, and we found a hidden Mirelurk nesting grounds in an old sewer grate underneath a broken road. But after all of that, we had only really explored half of the mall. And so, after exiting the sewer grate, we continued on our path clockwise around the mall and moved east. Eventually, we arrived again back at the foot of the Washington Monument. Skirting its western end, we find another Brotherhood of Steel soldier patrolling.
Move along, outsider.
And we arrive at the eastern edge of the reflecting pool. But then, vicious dogs charge us across the water. Exactly how many vicious dogs are here at the reflecting pool? We passed by a few corpses on our first pass through. On the other side, we shot more. And then there's these. Gosh. Well, at any rate, they're dead. And this just connects back to the path we already explored. So heading southeast, we can pass by a bunch of rubble to the right to again arrive at the foot of the Washington Monument. The monument has giant holes in it. It's in a horrible state of disrepair. But it is still standing all these years later. There is a giant concrete barricade encircling the monument, with an iron gate across it emblazoned with Brotherhood insignia. We can't actually directly access the gate. However, nearby there is a Washington Monument security terminal, which we sadly can't access because it requires a key. That's because venturing to the Washington Monument is part of the primary plot of Fallout 3. It's not strictly necessary, we can skip it. Coming here is part of Three Dog's quest. Depending on the choices we make with Three Dog, we have to come here before he'll tell us our father's whereabouts. I covered exactly what Three Dog wants us to do here, and we explored the entirety of the monument's interior in my series on the full story of Fallout 3, so we'll skip the monument for now. Instead, we can turn around. East from here on, instead of being dominated by a reflecting pool, the rest of the mall is swarming with mutants. We see huge trenches dug into the earth east of the monument, some of which are encircled with sandbag barricades. Others are crisscrossed with the rotting husks of giant trees. We've postponed it for too long. It's time to do a bit of cleanup. We've got to kill these mutants. But I didn't want to get stuck in a bunch of trenches. I wanted to see if I could find some sort of vantage point or overlook peering into the trenches from which I could shoot. But there's really nothing standing up overlooking the trenches aside from fallen trees and abandoned guard posts within the trenches themselves. Moving around to the southern side of the trenches, we see a bunch of concrete sticking up out of a big rubble pile against these buildings. And if we're careful, we can jump atop one of these big concrete points for a better shot. Peering through the sniper rifle's scope, we actually don't see very many enemies. We do, however, see one walking around, and we can try to take him out. That was way more effort than it was worth, and I went through far too much sniper rifle ammunition. I'm gonna be much more effective and much more efficient if I just get down there with my shotgun. Creeping forward, we can loot the body of the mutant. We see that he has died on an earthen ramp that leads into the trenches, and so we can take it down. These trenches are sprawling. They remind me of St. Louis, the mission the warrior had against the super mutants during the events of Fallout Tactics. The mutants had dug in like ticks there. Looks like either the mutants had the same idea here, or they found and occupied these trenches dug by someone else long before. Pretty soon we stumble upon a fragmentation bouquet tripwire trap. We still don't have high enough explosives to disarm the bouquet, but at least we can get rid of the trap. We see 2 bouquets hanging here, pretty nasty. Continuing along the trench, we find the corpse of a Brotherhood of Steel soldier. We still don't have power armor training, so this armor is useless to us. Continuing along the trench, it moves in a big circle, eventually taking us southeast and then south. Rounding a corner, we find a super mutant patrolling. He spots us. Knowing he'll charge, we can lie in wait with our shotgun. I realized during my last episode that my combat shotgun here is about ready to break. We sadly didn't get it repaired at Underworld, and we haven't found another one to repair it with. We're gonna have to be really careful with this sucker. After looting the corpse, we can continue along the trench. We see boards crisscrossing above us, pathways the super mutants walk from trench to trench. Eventually, we find a guard post on an elevated trench platform off to the southeast. As we get close, we get spotted by a mutant who is climbing up towards it, so we can back up for now. Peering through our scope, we see a body, at least I think it's a body, draped over the guard post, and then the mutant who spotted us charges. Oh, and he brought a friend. Turning around and hiding behind this corner, we can wait for him. Ooh, I was too far away to be effective with the shotgun and VATS there. Thankfully, I got a couple of really lucky crits. With a sliver of health left, we can begrudgingly use a stim pack. Moving forward and looting the bodies, we see that a large tree lies directly atop the trenches here. I wonder if we can climb upon it and use it as a sniper's roost. The path continues off to the east, but this trench circles on to the south and then the southwest. I wanted to finish exploring this, so traveling to the southwest, sure enough, this leads back to the earthen ramp we used to enter the trench. Alright, so this portion of the trench is clear. Here we find the base of the fallen tree, and after a bit of tricky jumping, we can leap upon it. Following the dead tree all the way to the tip, we can look over the trenches. And man, is this a labyrinth. We see a huge hole off to the northeast, with what appears to be another drainage pipe inside. This hole is disconnected from the rest of the trenches. Not sure we can get there aside from just dropping down into it. Then nearby we find 2 elevated platforms, one ringed with sandbag barricades, and the other with what appears to be either a Brotherhood or a former Enclave guard post at the top, with again a power armor wearing corpse draped over it. But then the trenches continue off into the east. This is all we can see from here. And we don't see any enemies. Looks like we've got to dive back into the trenches to flush them out. Well, the path off to the east that we saw from in the trenches leads to a staircase that moves west up the hill to this guard post. And here we can loot the Brotherhood body. All he has is power armor and a holotag, but on the ground by his feet are a bunch of microfusion cells. And on the other side of the barrier is his laser rifle. We don't see much from this guard post, so taking the staircase down, we can move back into the trenches. We pass through a bunch of broken pipes until we arrive at a sandbag barricade, a pile of tires, and a door. At the bottom of the sandbag barricade is another laser pistol with a pile of energy cells. There is a table by this barricade, but nothing on it. We see a staircase leading up out of this trench to the northeast, but for now, let's open this door to explore a bunker. On the other side, we find ourselves in a darkened tunnel. We see a trap directly in front of us. An engine block lies rigged to fall right in our way if we trip the tripwire. But before we have time to do much, we see a super mutant off in the distance. Okay. Well, a minigun in a confined space with no place for me to go means the minigun wins. Let's try that again. You know, I've got this missile launcher. I haven't used it very much to this point. I've got it almost fully repaired now. Might as well take it for a spin. Well, the mutants tripped their own trap, but it didn't seem to hinder them much. That guy with the minigun just pulls the trigger and walks right into me. If I were spec'd into big guns and I could get off a few good hits and VATS, this fight would be over really quickly with the missile launcher. But I'm not, I'm spec'd into small guns. So perhaps this isn't the best choice of weapon. Still, I really wanted this to work, so I tried several more times. Finally, I had to make a compromise. They were right upon me. I was almost dead. The missile launcher idea was a bust. But I do have the Burn Master. Oh! It's smashing! Oh! Thank you, Burn Master. All right. Glad I've been saving up all that flamer fuel. We'll go ahead and use one stim pack for good measure. With these mutants dead, we can cautiously creep forward. As this tunnel rounds a bend, it opens into a larger area, and we get the impression that these trenches were at one time owned by the Brotherhood of Steel, and that the mutants later came to occupy it and flush them out, for we find a Brotherhood of Steel initiate body lying here at the foot of a bunk bed. The mutants aren't really known for sleeping in bunk beds. We find a number of ammunition canisters on top of the bunks. None of them are locked. A first aid box on the ground at the base of a desk, upon which is another first aid box and a ham radio. Instead of wasting a stim pack, we can use these bunks to sleep. Nearby, we find a target dummy that looks suspiciously like a super mutant. Take that, mutie! Oh, and it bleeds. This straw dummy bleeds. I've taken great pains to remove all of the blood from this game so YouTube won't demonetize me, and the dummy bleeds. Great. The path continues off to the north. Here we find another trap rigged against intruders. It's an iron girder trap. Eventually, we see the tripwire. We can creep forward to disarm it. We pass over a couple of pipes to arrive at the door leading to the exit. On the other side, we appear in a huge pit. This doesn't appear to be the same pit we saw from atop the fallen tree, for this one has a staircase leading out of it. As we creep up the stairs... Wow! Run away! Ooh... Well, if the mutants didn't know we were here, they do now. Creeping back up the stairs, we can turn around and skirt this concrete ledge to hop into this drainage pipe. Or try to, at any rate. I couldn't get into this one, but there's another one on the opposite end. I did manage to hop into this one, but as soon as I got there... Uh-oh! Oh, crap! Ah! The exit of this pipe is in clear line of sight of a guard post above the pit, and there's a super mutant right there. We kill him, and another one pops up to take his place. Oh no, and another one, and even more. God, how many are there? But you know, they're not doing very much damage at this range. I've got much better aim, so I'll just sit here for a bit. How are we doing? Not bad. One stim pack will fully heal us, and that's 5 mutants down. I'll take it. Whew, that's a lot of shell casings. Sadly, this pipe doesn't go anywhere, and neither does the other one. So hopping down, we can walk back to the staircase and take it to the surface. The tunnel has brought us pretty far away from the other complex of trenches we were trying to explore. We're gonna have to backtrack a bit to finish exploring those trenches. Uh-oh. Yeah, there's a bunch of mutants over there. We still gotta clear them out. Ah! A mutant with a minigun charges us. Gosh, he came upon us fast. Heading back into the bunker. We can try to find safety. Oh, but they come in behind us. Time for the shotty. Oh, it broke. Oh, no. Oh, no, the hunting rifle won't be effective from here. Heading out, we can grab the Burnmaster and then wait for him at the door. Oh, got him. Well, geez. I think we pretty much cleared the trenches just by kiting them through this tunnel. Back inside, we can loot the bodies, then exit on the other side, take the staircase back up to the ground level. Then moving west back towards the other entrance of the bunker, we can try to finish flushing this section of the trenches out. I moved southwest around this big ring of concrete, trying to find a gap that would let me inside, but it was then that a mutant rushed out of a nook to the southwest. He was agitated, searching for someone, but he didn't appear to see me.
Stupid little man!
But his friend did. Alright, well, the friend's dead. We can explore this little nook. We see tires on fire and a bit of a concrete pedestal or platform in the middle here. Around this platform are two dead bodies. A wastelander with a knife and another with a tire iron. That other mutant ran off to the north. We've got to go hunt him. Moving that way and turning west, we see movement. Continuing west, we can try to track him down. Oh! And he's got a minigun. Thankfully, we were at the top of that earthen ramp leading back down into the trenches. We can creep down it to avoid his minigun fire. He comes to the edge of the trench, trying to shoot down at us. But it's not working well for him. However, our Burnmaster might be able to reach him. Oh, and he's done. Well, how's that for a tour of the trenches? Yikes. We're right back where we started, at the same ramp we used to first enter the trenches, moving to the other side of this guard post that we found the Brotherhood of Steel soldier draped over. We see at least one more mutant walking around by some sandbags off to the east. Our aim isn't very good from here. We definitely couldn't get off a VATS hit from here, but we're so far away that it confuses him. And so while he walks around looking for us, we can whittle him down. Until we kill him. I decided to take the opportunity to explore that big hole in the ground that we saw from atop the dead tree. Moving down into it, we do see that pipe, but it's blocked in with rebar and garbage, so we can't get into there. With most of these trenches clear, we can explore the upper portions that we skipped by while we were down in the trenches. We find a couple of overlooks made with sandbags, but there's not much here, so we can continue east to the hill overlooking the door to the bunker where we just killed that last mutant. There's another sandbag overlook here, and peering east, we see the giant hole that we came out of on the other side of the trenches. There's that sandbag overlook where we killed those 5 mutants who saw us while we were sitting in the pipe. But off to the southeast, we see another section of trenches that we have not yet explored. This hilltop continues to the southwest, but the southern section is ringed in concrete, and we can't get past. This is a dead end. So heading east, we can make for the section of trench we haven't explored yet when we find a metro station. Oh, I wonder which one that is. Creeping closer, ever so cautiously, we can peer into this new trench. This western portion of the trench ends in a dead end. There's nothing west of us. Using these boards to cross to this little island, we can peer east, but we don't see anything over there, except for pipes on the ground of this trench. Must be some pre-war infrastructure that was uncovered when the trenches were dug. But then we see him hiding behind a slab of concrete. And he ducks for cover. All right, well, he's going to come our way soon. Moving to the other side of this concrete slab, we can use it as cover. Oh, but he climbed up out of the trenches, and he's coming for us. What? Where you going? Okay. Well, instead of coming across the bridge, he decided to come all the way around, which just gave me more time to fire at him. But now he's too close, grabbing the Burnmaster. Yikes, and he still almost got me. That super sludge was awful. Well, it's night now, and we really need to rest. Continuing east, we can peer into the trenches, but we don't see any more enemies. This is, however, a completely new labyrinth. We'll have to dive down in there to explore, but we've come to the hilltop where the super mutants fired at us while we were sitting in that pipe, so we can creep up the hillside to loot the various super mutant bodies. There's a lot of them up here. After looting the dead, we've got a pretty good view of the entire mall from this hilltop. Well, these trenches appear to be clear. If there are any mutants in them, they're going to be on the far eastern side. So we'll start from the western side of these trenches to fully explore them. Heading back towards the little island where the mutant rushed us from behind, we can drop down into the trenches. The southern portion is blocked. We can't go any further south or west, so we can pull out the Burnmaster and follow these trenches to the east. Eventually, we find a little nook to the right, but it's a dead end. And then we come upon that area with giant pipes snaking across the ground. There is another big nook here to the right with more pipes. We find one that has a big wheel on it, but we can't interact with it or spin it or anything. There is no gas leaking from these pipes. All we find are Nuka-Cola bottles littering the ground. The path from here continues off to the east. We come upon a split, a path to the right and a path to the left. Turning right, we see a bed down here amongst some rubble. A couple of beds next to a ruined shelf and a bunch of ammo canisters. All right. We can loot 3 different ammo canisters and a first aid box, none of which are locked. I tried to sleep in a bed, but there are enemies nearby. Well, this little nook is a dead end, which means if there is an enemy, it's going to be off to the northeast. Moving that way. Yep, there he is. Waiting for him with the Burnmaster. We make quick work of him, but he got a couple of shots off on us. Hopefully, we've cleared enough mutants to be able to rest in one of these beds. Heading back to the beds, we can sleep until morning. At dawn, we can continue on our way northeast. At the crossroads where we killed the mutant, we see a path to the east and a path to the north. Looks like the trenches continue to the east, so we can go up this hill to the north. This just brings us to the hilltop where we killed those 5 mutants from the pipe. We find a smaller hill here, overlooking the rest of the trenches. We can peer down into them to get a sneak peek at what's to come, but we don't see any enemies or very much loot. Using a bridge to cross the trenches, we can continue east, and we arrive at what appears to be the end of the trenches. We find a number of staircases that have been built into this earthen wall leading out of the trenches. And at the very end, we find a bunch of brambles or trees or something blocking our vision to the east. I wanted to do my due diligence, however, so retracing my steps west, we can hop back into the trenches and this time take the path to the east. Our sneak peek above told us that there's nothing off here to the northeast, but we can move there anyway, and sure enough, it's empty. So turning back around, we can take the final path southeast and then east. And sure enough, we arrive in a big open area, and our only way out is to take any number of staircases out of the trenches. We'll move south for now, Taking the staircase south and then turning east, we see our path forward is strewn with hazards. Nothing that can actually hurt us, but lots of cover here. Half-buried tires, bent rusting rebar, barbed wire, dead trees. It's an absolute mess. Well, okay, that's it for the trenches. We need to explore east to see what's through this mess, but we left something behind us. That unknown metro station. I didn't want that question mark hanging over my head, so turning around, we can follow the southern edge of the mall west to see if there was anything hidden in any of these nooks that we otherwise would have missed. Eventually, we discover the Museum of Technology. We fully explored this place in my video, Night at the Museum of Technology. We came here as part of the unmarked quest for Jig's loot. It's here where we find the replica of the Virgo 2 lunar lander that was advertised on the posters that we saw inside the metro station. Stepping inside for a brief moment, we see the ruins of a plane, but there are mutants inside, and we'll just leave them there for now. Turning around and continuing west, at last we arrive at that metro station. We've explored everything west of here. Moving to the metro map, we see that this leads to Anacostia Crossing. Oh, this must be the other end of Museum Station, the one that led to the Museum of Technology. Of course, because that's where we're at. Heading down the steps and into the metro, sure enough, we've been here. We find that sandbag barricade, behind which was an ammo canister that we already looted, and we arrive back at Museum Station with the corpse of that raider who we killed atop one of the train cars. All right, well, now we know where we're at, but we've got to keep going. There's more mall to cover. Heading back to the metro gate, we can climb the steps outside and retrace our steps back east towards that huge mess on the eastern end of the mall. As we approach, a battle commences. We are not involved in this battle. Creeping forward, we can leap atop a dead tree to see exactly what's going on over here. Peering closer with our iron sight, we see super mutants atop guard posts attacking Talon Company with their robots who are charging the Capitol. Well, instead of taking on both the mutants and Talon Company, we can wait until one side is the victor. And the mutants are the victor. Okay, I think he's dead, guy. Yeah, that's a corpse now. You're just wasting missiles at this point, buddy. I think he's dead. Well, since he was so fond of wasting missiles, I decided to waste some of my own. I didn't have any high hopes that I was going to be able to hit him with this sucker, but I wanted to try. It's dueling missile launchers. Who will come out on top? And I actually killed him with a VATS hit. Well, I didn't actually hit him. I hit the concrete behind him, but the explosion was enough to do the trick. With the mutant dead, we can turn around and loot the battlefield. We find so many Talon Company mercs with Talon combat armor, ammunition, mines, explosives, and we find carnage strewn around this battlefield. Human skeletons, rubber tires, dented metal barrels, coils of barbed wire. After looting everything we could, we see that all that lies before us are the steps to the Capitol building. The Capitol was fenced off with a chain-linked fence covered in barbed wire, presumably before the war, but by now, of course, there's a huge gap in the fence. Climbing up the ramp towards the Capitol building, we can loot even more bodies of the combatants, more Talon Company, more super mutants, including that guy with the missile launcher. Moving east towards the steps, we can peer over this hill to see if we see any more enemies. Not seeing any for now. The steps to the Capitol building are sprawling, taking over the entire eastern edge of the mall. I decided to explore to the south first. We find a huge open area off to the south, hedged in by the crumbling walls of the Capitol building. We see a structure off to the west, spilling concrete rubble and rebar into the street. If we get close, we do see a door hiding on the other side of this concrete slab, but we can't get back there. I don't think we can use it as a door. It doesn't appear on the local map as an exit or an entrance. Back to the opening, we can follow it south, and we end at the wall to the Capitol as it curls around to form a hedge. So with this a dead end, we need to turn around and move north. Heading that way, we pass a huge boulder. We find a little nook here, but it's empty. But while exploring the nook, we get spotted. Uh-oh, crap. Where'd he come from? Oh, there are more mutants on the steps. Well, we can try the missile launcher again. No, of course. Well, I mean, I was just lucky last time. Switching to a more conventional weapon. The more we fight, the more red ticks appear on our compass, and soon we don't really know from which side we're being attacked. Eventually, another mutant rushes up from the west. These two are dead, but there's probably more. Stepping forward to loot. Ah, there was one behind us. Okay, these three are dead, but this was only the southern side. There will probably be more on the northern steps. Heading around to the steps, we can climb them up to the east. Peering off to the north, don't see any movement yet. We can continue east up the steps to loot the rest of the bodies. At the very top, we find sandbag barricades, and peering north, we see at least one more mutant. This platform up here by the door to the Capitol is pretty huge, though. I wanted to fully explore it, but we are really not rewarded for our effort. We find a little nook to the left, but it's empty, and then the pathway to the south is also empty and then blocked to us. So turning back around, we can head back towards the main door to the Capitol and see if we can find this mutant that was hiding. I again tried to get rid of some of these missiles, because why not? I got a stack of them. And then I got bored. Assault rifle time. Got him. Moving forward to loot the body, we come under fire from more mutants to the west. Oh, and this guy's got a minigun. Daggone it. What? That was a direct hit in the head with a missile. And that didn't kill him? I'm calling bullcrap on that. Well, fine. I guess I should use a weapon I'm actually spec'd into. We'll switch to the Magnum. and he's downed with a revolver. This little thing packs a punch. Is that it? Tell me that's it. God, that's a lot of mutants. Well, we already took a peek inside the Capitol building in my video on Seward Square, and we had already previously explored the entire Capitol building in a separate video, which I placed in this series playlist, so we won't go ahead and explore the Capitol building today. Instead, we can loot the bodies on this level, then head down the stairs to loot the guy we just killed. Peering over this ledge, we don't find any other doors leading into workshops or other wings of the Capitol building. Instead, we see most of this foundation crumbling into the street level below. As with the southern side, the northern end of the Capitol building is mostly clear. We do see more nooks and crannies, but not a whole lot of loot. No more enemies, just a lot of ruin and rubble and concrete and rebar, rocks and trash strewn all over the place. Moving west down from the Capitol, we really have but to skirt the northern edge of the mall to complete our clockwise loop tour of the place. With most of the enemies dead, really we can just enjoy the sights along the way. Off to the northwest, we see one of these buildings just spilling into the mall, a complete and total ruin. Along the way, we can loot some of the Enclave robots that the mutants had killed. On one, we find a fission battery. Hey! Taking a look at our schematics for the railway rifle, we see that we need a fission battery to build one. So, what do we need left? A crutch, a steam gauge assembly, and a pressure cooker. I can't believe we've almost finished exploring the mall, and all we have so far is a fission battery. We haven't found any of the rest. These fission batteries are pretty heavy though, so I had to get rid of some stuff I didn't need to make room. At the westernmost edge of the steps leading up to the Capitol, we see another abandoned Brotherhood guard post here, but there's nothing inside of it. No ammo canisters waiting for us. Continuing west back towards the direction of the Washington Monument, we pass ruined cars, dead trees, more rubble blocking all alleyways. We find the northern edge of the mall blocked to us, so we actually have to dip into the trenches a little bit to skirt around it to get back to the road. And when we do, we find a marker pointing towards a metro station. It points off to the north, and here we find a pathway leading to the steps of a large building. Getting closer, we discover the National Archives. The National Archives appear to mostly be intact. A couple of pillars outside are crumbling, but most of them are still there. We even find a few pre-war banners still hanging from the facade. Heading through the front door, we arrive in a small lobby, and rounding this wall in the middle, we see a door that leads to the rotunda for the Charters of Freedom. Inside the rotunda is Sydney. We met Sydney in a previous episode, and that's because I completely covered the National Archives in my video, Stealing Independence. Coming to the National Archives is part of a quest that we get from Abraham Washington inside Rivet City. We come here and meet Sydney, and Sydney actually joins us as a temporary companion for the duration of the quest, and for eternity actually, until we complete the quest. But as I've already done a video on the quest Stealing Independence and the National Archives, we can head back outside to finish exploring the mall. Down the steps from the National Archives, we can try to find where that metro marker was pointing. But first, I wanted to repair my shotgun. I've been missing it. The Burnmaster is great, but I'm running out of flamer fuel, and we know that we're really close to Underworld. So before moving towards that metro marker, we can head back to the street and follow it west. We know that after a short walk, we're going to arrive back at Underworld, and sure enough, just a hop, skip, and a jump away, we arrive at the door to the Museum of History. We can head on in, and first lighten our load by handing scrap metal to Winthrop.
All right, sounds good. What do you want for him?
We'll go ahead and take Radaway as our reward, and then we can have him repair our radiation suit, which is broken, and our combat shotgun, which is broken. When done, we can leave the Underworld, head back to the street, and follow it east back towards the National Archives. From there, we can move past the bus and around a corner to the northeast, follow a metro sign, and follow this pathway until we arrive at a plaza behind the National Archives. Here we find the metro station. and the back door to the National Archives. I decided to head into the National Archives briefly because I knew that this back door led to a storage area, a level where there was going to be a bunch of scrap, and I really wanted to find more supplies to craft my railway rifle. But before moving very far, of course, we trod on a mine. This floor is entirely mined, all over the place. We can loot the mines and then...
Found you! I'm gonna eat your arms when you're dead, human!
We've got to defend ourselves from a bunch of super mutants, but we'll stumble upon them in a minute, for directly behind us, in this corner, we find a missile lying on the ground and a copy of Duck and Cover lying on a school desk. So it looks like it's good to sneak in here because we have really quick access to this book. Then we can clear this floor of mutants. I won't bother showing off the entire layout, for as I said, we've already explored the National Archives in my previous video. I didn't want to loot the entire building, because I didn't have time, but I did manage to find some supplies in an old schoolroom. After looting the various containers in this room, we find a crutch lying on the floor. There's actually a second one hiding behind the chalkboard. So now we've got a fission battery and a crutch. Now we just need a pressure cooker and a steam gauge assembly. Back out the rear door of the National Archives to the mall, we can explore this small plaza. Heading to the metro map just outside the metro station, we see that it's not marked, so we don't know which one this is. Ah! Well, wait a minute. I already cleared the mall. Ooh, a fully repaired combat shotgun does the trick. And of course, I was still in my Vault 101 utility jumpsuit. Well, with these guys dead, we can explore this little nook off to the northeast. We see a lamp post still illuminating after all this time, but there's nothing over here. So, heading back to the metro station, we can take the escalators down to see that we've arrived at the metal gate to the Pennsylvania Avenue metro station. All right, we've been here before. Heading inside and moving to the waiting platform, we see that this is the metro station that had that little Wastelander platform with the ham radio erected on the waiting platform. This is the one with those ammo canisters and the skull sitting on top. We found this when we did our video on Pennsylvania Avenue. And it looks like, of all access points to the mall, this metro station is probably the safest one. It puts us out into the mall behind the National Archives, down a secluded alley. The others put us up right by the trenches. At any rate, I've already explored this one, so heading out, we can arrive back at the mall. With that, we've fully explored the mall and all of its interesting locations. Now we've just got to get to L'Enfant Plaza. To do that, we take the road west, past the National Archives, past the Museum of History, past the Washington Monument, past the reflecting pool and all of those vicious dogs, past the Georgetown Metro, turn left at the end of the reflecting pool, past the Lincoln Memorial, until we arrive at the metro station leading to the hazmat disposal site. Then we can wind our way through what by now should be a familiar path towards the exit to L'Enfant Plaza. But before we leave the mall and all of its wonders behind us, we can go through a quick montage of everything we've seen in this two-part episode. We arrive at L'Enfant Plaza just as dawn breaks. But I've actually already completely explored L'Enfant Plaza in a previous episode. L'Enfant Plaza is a really interesting zone with a fascinating layout, great architecture, and really interesting experiences. It was while doing that episode that I realized that the ruins of DC had a lot of great storytelling, disconnected from the primary plot, and deserved their own series. But since I've already done a video on it, I'm not going to go ahead and do it again now. Instead, I'll put the L'Enfant Plaza episode directly after this one in my Fallout 3 Metro playlist. L'Enfant Plaza has only one exit, and that is a metro station that, if it had a name before the war, is now unknown to us. For now, it is only known as the Irradiated Metro. In our next episode, we'll explore the Irradiated Metro and, at last, venture back out into the Capital Wasteland, having fully explored the DC ruins and all of their metro tunnels. I publish new Fallout episodes each and every week on my channel, so if you don't want to miss that episode, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. If you have already, but you still feel like you're missing out on YouTube notifications, consider following me on Twitter at Oxhorn. I update Twitter manually with every new piece of content that I publish. I've got a shirt shop with completely unique designs that you can't find anywhere else. My designs come on shirts in a variety of men's, women's, and children's sizes, and in a wide array of colors. You can find them on other products as well, like smartphone cases, pillows, posters, mugs, stickers, prints, etc. So if interested, you can find a link to my shop in the description below, or you can click here. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming a patron on Patreon or a member here on YouTube. YouTube members and patrons on Patreon gain access to a private members-only channel on my Discord server, and YouTube members get access to little badges that appear next to their names in the comment sections of my videos, and access to ox emojis that they can use in my video comments and in the live chats of my live streams. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with more brand new videos.